That's now 20 games under 500 for the Philadelphia 76ers as they fall to this
flat on their damn faces.
Pretty much, like Derek White tonight, to the Boston Celtics 123-105. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck, Devon Givens, Bree producing the show. You in the chat. Thanks for joining us. The Sixers are now 21-41 on the campaign for the first time again this season. They are 20 games under 500 after the loss tonight. That is now 3 in a row for the 76ers. As shorthanded as the Boston Celtics were, it did not matter because they are the better team, more talented team, more together team right now for where things are. But the Sixers did get some help if you are looking at the draft positioning and where things should be. We'll talk about the Chicago Bulls and their win.
Kobe White.
Maybe he's the player of the game tonight. We'll see. We'll check in on the other teams with the Tank Watch around the association the rest of the way. We'll get to the player of the game. We'll talk about so much more here tonight as the Sixers again fall 123-105. And Kyle, in this one, man, I mean, first of all, it was a hard watch. We all know it was a tough watch. We talked about guys being out with Maxey and George sitting for this one. And then also looking at the other side with the Boston Celtics, we gave the examples of, hey, teams missing a certain amount of players. The Sixers have been competing. They have been doing so. But this one got away pretty quickly. And while they did fight back a little bit later, cut the double-digit lead, it was a double-digit lead that they cut to 10. And that was a big deal at that point of the game, right?
Not even the single digits.
Right.
It's like, man,
yeah,
you really felt something in your chest when they cut it to 10 points.
And they
All
did.
right. And they did. Like, I don't mean to belittle them, right? Because I do think when we're talking about, you're trying to talk up, hey, they competed, hey, they played hard,
Sure.
all that. Like, I do think you saw that in the third quarter. I think the one big positive standout was Kelly Oubre. And he has been that guy in terms of the work ethic, the playing hard, defending, offering them a scoring option for most of this season, right? As guys go in and out of the lineup, as his role changes, like the final end number, the volume of scoring might look different, but his game has largely been the same. I wrote in my recap tonight, like, I think if you're Kelly Oubre, when you signed that deal in Philadelphia 2 Septembers ago now, it is mission accomplished of what you wanted to do when you're here. Certainly not on the team goal front, but that's a guy that in the NBA had run out of interest in a lot of places. And so he came here after productive basketball seasons and is looking to rehab his value, rehab his image, prove to NBA executives and people around the league, like, hey, not only can I be a high volume guy when I don't have to care about winning, or I don't have to care about this, I don't have to care about that, I can be a person who scales down and plays a smaller role and buys in on defense and play hard every night and do all this stuff. And so, like, you saw that in the third quarter from Kelly. Like,
yep. 16.
He had a really nice third quarter on offense, but also at the defensive end. Like, he was leading the charge there. He was getting into Jayson Tatum and some ball handlers along the sideline, force some turnovers, get out and score, give them a puncher's chance. But, like, end of the day, when Kelly Oubre is your number one option and Quentin Grimes struggles, like, there is a ceiling on how good you can be. And frankly, the ceiling is really set by their complete inability to stop anybody, right? Like, I get that Boston has Jayson Tatum, and Jayson Tatum by himself is more talented than everybody who's out there for the Sixers tonight. And then you have Derek White and Payton Pritchard, what have you. They had no chance. They can't protect the rim. They can't protect the 3-point line. It's just, there's only so much you can do. Derek is worried that the severe wind outside is going to pull him out the window like Dorothy and Toto in The Wizard of Oz, I think. So if you see him looking to the side of the set, it's not because there's anything over there. It's because it sounds like
we are on the top floor and
we're
it is
not
very
in Kansas
loud
anymore.
Right
No,
Gang.
open the blinds, man. Let's have at it.
I can see the windows rattling too.
Right. Open the shades, man. But no, man, it was a parade to the painted area. I mean, we talk about, look, Andre Drummond is known for his rebounding. That's what he's known for. But he is not a shot blocker. And Jayson Tatum, oftentimes when we didn't really get to this, even though the guys talked about maybe he'll go for 50 tonight and get that 50 spot.
Yeah,
What,
35
30?
through
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
And the game was basically over.
And he was in cruise control. A lot of times what he does in situations like this where it's a lesser opponent, a lot of players out, he just goes into facilitator mode, rebound the basketball. Maybe he'll collect a triple-double where he only scores 16 to 18, but he had his fingerprints all over it. But tonight, because it was so easy for him to get by the initial defense, that first defender, and then there was no resistance once he got, you talk about in the NFL, get to the second level and see what happens when you get to the second level. Well, he got to the second level, and then the third level just said, hey, that's Jayson Tatum. Let's watch what happens. And that's what it was. It was so easy tonight for him to drive, penetrate the defense, get to the basket, and just layup after layup after layup. He had his outside shot going, just, again, finding his teammates and doing what he was doing just as a facilitator and how he was navigating the Sixers defense or lack thereof tonight. And it was really evident very, very early, and that set the tone. That really set the tone because Derek White comes out, his hot shooting from yesterday, continued his first 2 threes, and you're like, oh, man, this is going to happen again where this team is going to get rowdy. He's going to have a big night. But it was just a balance up and down from Jayson Tatum to Derek White to Kata to Cornette, Shireman. When we discussed the talent level overall, yes, Derek White, Jayson Tatum, Payton Pritchard, but the others were also just role players. Yeah. But they know their role. They are very well coached.
Torrey Craig comes in, and he hasn't even been there that long.
He's been there for like 2 weeks.
Looks like he's shot out of a cannon.
Yeah, the energy level, creating those second shot opportunities, and just having his imprint on what the Celtics were doing. So it largely speaks to who the Celtics are, but it also speaks to who the 76ers are right now at this stage of 62 games into the campaign. And this is just what they are.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're down like some big names here. Jrue, Kristaps, Horford, Jaylen Brown. They still come out and shoot like 19 of 48 from 3. 19 threes with a bunch of just journeymen.
And that's with Derek White shooting 2 for 10, by the way.
They just have so much shooting depth built around a guy who can beat almost anyone off the dribble.
Yeah.
And it's against a team that once you get past that first line, over helps to the nth degree. And it's just, again, a bad matchup. Even with 2 stretch bigs out, the Sixers still had nowhere to put Andre Drummond. When they brought Yabusele in, they had no one to rebound. And they were overhelping the entire time. And even though they're showing Jayson Tatum a crowd, he never looked bothered. He never looked flustered at any point. So you're really just throwing help at him while giving up the open shots. And also your big man has to come up and contest, and you have no chance to rebound. I mean, Boston had 16 offensive rebounds. They only missed like 45 shots. It's just the Sixers got beat in almost every way. And you can't really blame them because they were out-talented, but they weren't really out-hustled. So you go like, all right.
Yeah. And they were, and then the out-talent was, all you really need is 2 players, but they had 3 players when we just ran down Derek White, Jayson Tatum, and Payton Pritchard. But when you speak of the lack of stretch bigs on the Boston side like we would normally see from Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford, I mean, they went with a lineup of a front court with basically 2 centers in the front court with Jrue Peterson, who you said you had to look up, and he looks just like Jrue Peterson is supposed to look. And they just did what they were supposed to do without 2 non-scorers at that center and power forward position with Jrue Peterson, who only took 3 shots, but he did whatever Jrue Peterson was supposed to do: play defense, rebound the basketball, make the extra pass, have the offense run, set the screen, and just do your job. Yeah. And that's exactly what they did tonight. And it was still just a big discrepancy. Boston has 46 wins. The Sixers are sitting at 21 wins right now. And we understand that. But again, you have 3 guys that started tonight in their front court who are non-scorers, and it wasn't even close.
Yeah, well, so Derek brought up the front court options, right? I just think when you look at the individual players, you just say there isn't a good option here, right? The center is the most important defender on the floor. It's not as true as it used to be with the way the league is. Like it is a league that increasingly values switchable defenders and the rotations all over the floor and whatnot. But the anchor of your defense, the guy by the rim, is still the most important player for your defense. And they don't have a good option there, right? So Andre Drummond gets the start. And as you said, Devon, he's a good rebounder, but he is not a good defender. And his problem is the exact opposite of Gershon Yabusele's problem, right? Andre can play drop and he can sit around the rim and he can be big. So even if he's not a great rim protector, it's at least like, okay, you're so big that if a guy drives at you, you might be able to dissuade them, or at least like they got to think about it a little bit, right? It's not just once you get to the paint, you're going to get a clean look at the rim. So that's what Drummond's good for. Unfortunately, when you're playing a 5-out team like Boston, you have to close the space between where you're dropping to and where somebody like Luke Cornett is, or where even tonight at the end of the game, Xavier Tillman, Kristaps Porzingis if he was healthy, Al Horford if he was healthy. Otherwise, either it's a pick and pop or a spot up shot for Luke Cornett that's wide open, or if Jayson Tatum's running a pick and roll and somebody like Cornett is going to the basket, Tatum is going to be able to step into an open three with the way that they're covering it. So Drummond's not helping in that respect. So then you say, okay, well, let's see what a small ball lineup looks like, right? If we can play up higher, right? You can have Yabu, maybe not hard hedge, but at least come up to the level, show him some hands and try to dissuade the pull-up jumper. Well, the problem with that is Tatum, one, can go around him, and two, if he gets up there, drops back, and then Tatum beats that initial coverage, so a lot of times tonight that was Justin Edwards or Kelly Oubre, then Yabu's in a position at the rim where he has to be a real rim protector. And for whatever his gifts are, and I think most of them, if not all of them, are on offense, he is not a rim protector. He's not a guy that you can ask to sit back against. Jayson Tatum is honestly probably bigger than he is, right? At least in terms of like length, and certainly has the better vertical athleticism. So you're asking him from a standstill to try to contest shots down there, and he just has no shot. So because of your bigs, you can't protect the 3-point line and you can't protect the rim, there is nowhere that you can protect on the floor, right? Those are the two most important spots in the NBA. Maybe with some weird coverages or some zone, you can play teams out of the shots that they want, but we've seen how zone goes against this team.
Yeah.
And so you can see exactly why Nick Nurse has been grasping at straws like, oh, our man defense doesn't work against the Celtics. Let's try zone. Let's try box and one. Let's try this. Personnel-wise, there just really isn't much you can do when you're starting from that point, and that's before getting into all the other quirks of the rest of the roster.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it is, and this is part of why we've been a little focused on this center spot, is because there's, a lot that you're giving up by putting Yabusele at the 5 defensively. This is certainly a game that showcases that, but it's also like first of all, there's no really great option on the roster right now. That's more of a long-term project going forward. But Boston really just has a way, and even like,
I hope people are familiar with the Wicked Witches music, by the way.
But even when Joel was like that's where it really became stark. Like, oh, this isn't nearly the Joel Embiid we're used to. This team stresses you out in that regard so much because they have wings who can slash like that. Because when they do get in the paint, they're so good at making plays. And because they're surrounded by literally almost everyone on the floor that can shoot, it's just an almost impossible assignment, even when you're healthy. And the Sixers are obviously nowhere near that.
And when you lay in on a Drummond piece and the Yabusele part, and look, personally, you can like different types of centers, especially on this particular roster where you do have, and hopefully a healthy Joel Embiid to do what he does. Just looking for a really good backup. We talked about how maybe getting a younger one, Dembona obviously there, but looking at some of the other young backups where in the past people were excited again about Rashawn Holmes and how athletic he was, a rim runner, somebody who has springs where he can get up and down the floor, he can get up to the rim and finish with some highlight dunks as well. But then you also have players like Luke Cornett, who is a 1-year deal, well, even though he signed after the championship, a 2-year deal, but a guy who's on a 1-year deal over a year, just a hardworking lunch pail type of player. And the value, of course, is there with someone like Andre Drummond. But then you have the alternate version of he or Keita as a backup center, and you just see what their value is. Now, I don't know what they would look like in the Sixers situation because the culture is different.
That's the thing, right? But I'm not trying to say, hey, it's all Andre Drummond's fault the defense is bad, or it's all Yabusele's fault the defense is bad. It's just when you start there, then it's a domino effect. It's like, okay, if Justin Edwards makes rookie mistakes, they're compounded, right? If Kelly Oubre plays really hard most of the game, but has, let's say, a 5-minute stretch where it's like, I'm tired. Like he might be fatigued. It's deep in the year. He's carried a big load and he's got to scale it back. Well, then you just don't have the guy to save you. You don't have the people that's like, that guy's going to clean up 4 or 5 plays for us. And that gives all of us a chance to like not take plays off, but at least catch your breath a little and not go full throttle the entire game.
And you saw it all evening long. Those two bigs, Torrey Craig with the energy coming in, Shireman diving on the floor, sliding out of bounds to save a play. Of course, Payton Pritchard getting on the floor as well. That's who the Boston Celtics are. And unfortunately, right now for the Philadelphia 76ers, that's not how the season has played out. That's not who they are this particular campaign. When we come back, we'll get into a lot more with this one. We'll talk about the Ace Hardware heating up, cooling off for this particular game, as we have a game to talk about there with that one tonight. The player of the game as well. Sixers
Kobe
fall.
White.
Tank Watch will give you the update there. Sixers fall 123-105. Got close there for a point at the end of the third, and then Jayson Tatum hit a three. A couple of other buckets,
Close-ish.
and then it got extended, and they never looked back after that. We'll get into it all right here on the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show, presented by Bet365.
Guys, I'm going to tell you about TrueMark Financial Credit Union. It's almost spring, even if the Wizard of Oz wind would tell you otherwise out there. But that means it's time to spring into savings. That's right. You might have different financial goals. Some of you are trying to buy a house. Some of you want to take a dream vacation.
Need a new roof when it gets knocked over by the wind.
Listen, Toto might be flying out of that roof. Maybe you just want to build an emergency fund. Living through crazy times, everybody. You never know when you might need that nest egg to do whatever you want to do with that money. TrueMark Financial Credit Union has the perfect savings account for you in all of those cases. TrueMark Financial offers high-rate certificates and money market accounts to help you grow your money faster and work harder for you. Visit TrueMark.com for rates to learn more. Federally insured by the NCUA. Rates are subject to change. TrueMark Financial Credit Union is an equal opportunity lender. Rates are subject to change.
And folks, if you were watching the game, you saw that Kelly Oubre was trying to take everybody out. So you might have caught one of those straight elbows tonight, even from your couch watching the basketball game. If you need to get some things fixed, you need to get them right. Rothman Orthopedics is the place for you to go. Those elbows were flying in that game from Kelly Oubre, and sometimes you might end up with a laceration to the eye, or lose a tooth. In that case, for Derek White, or some other stuff that happened where Torrey Craig even had to go face down to the floor because of some injuries to himself. But if you are dealing with something like that where you need to be repaired, joints aching, back out of whack right now, Rothman Orthopedics, they are the place for you. They practice specialized care, has been their mission for over 50 years. The passion, high quality, compassionate, affordable care rooted in research leading to new treatments and better outcomes. Rothman proudly serves dozens of communities across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, with 30-plus convenient offices, urgent cares, and walk-in centers. So if you happen to be walking outside and, I don't know, a trash can hits you because the wind is blowing the way that it is, you buckle your knee a little bit, Rothman Orthopedics is the place for you to go. And again, they proudly serves dozens of communities across Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Year over year, Rothman consistently performs among the highest volume of hip, knee, shoulder, ankle replacements and in the country. We're at over 60,000, and for more than 50 years, Rothman has participated in thousands of groundbreaking research, clinical trials with the goal of advancing knowledge, developing treatments, and improving outcomes for the benefit of their patients. Rothman Orthopedics specializes in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today. Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show, presented by Bet365. You know what, Bree? Let's get to the temperature check right here, right away, as we go into the temperature
Ace
check.
Hardware Home Services, baby.
Exactly right. And with the temperature check, let's take a look at which player, in this case, heating up, cooling off with our Ace Hardware temperature check. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. You know, we should go for that one. We haven't talked about him a lot, but he had decent enough game where I think he can be a little bit of a focal point for heating up. Lonnie Walker in 28 minutes hit 5 threes tonight for the Philadelphia 76ers for 17 points, 6 for 13 overall, 5 for 10 from beyond in 28 minutes. Easily, Derek, his best game of the season in the Sixers uniform.
Yeah.
With that 17 and shown again, finding his touch from beyond.
He had the shot going. He played pretty good defense, especially early on. When that shot's going, he then has a chance to get into the paint and get into sort of like that mid-range area. He doesn't do much at the rim, but he really has a, when it works, you can see the NBA player. Obviously, he has off nights. When those off nights happen, sometimes the defense comes and goes. The decision-making still needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but he certainly has some skills. It all revolves around, at least starts with that outside shot. And he came out and hit 3 pretty early on there in the first quarter. They certainly needed an offensive boost early on. He gave it to him a little bit. And like you said, it was close-ish at points in the third quarter, and he was certainly a part of that.
Derek's going to be singing Defying Gravity by the end of the
really
show
distracting.
with the wind outside.
Every time I get like a couple sentences into a monologue too, it's like
just wait.
So I will say about Lonnie, the other thing, the shooting was the big thing, right? He's 5 for 10 from 3, and that made up the vast majority of his makes. In fact, he only had one other make, and you could see the 2 trips he made to the basket, one in each half, were the yin and yang of Lonnie Walker, right? Like he had one drive, I believe it was in the first half, maybe the third quarter. Either way, it all kind of blended together. Where he had a really acrobatic finish off the glass where a little bit of English on it and it drops in. It's like, ooh. And it was the type of thing that when you saw him at Miami and some of his early days in the league, it's like, oh, maybe this guy could turn into somebody, right? Like be a consistent creator of offense and at least a guy who can come in off the bench and give you a spark. And then he had one in the fourth quarter where he goes to the rim and it was just like, well, that just kind of flew off the backboard and didn't hit anything else. And it's been the hard thing to read about him, right? Because when he looks good, he looks really good. And there are guys like that in the league and around basketball in general where you can never really figure out why it's not more consistent because he is a good athlete. He's got a functional enough handle. He is a skilled player, right? Like he can, if you can make 5 out of 10 threes in an NBA game, you have the skill to be in the league. And so I'm not quite sure why he's not able to sustain it over longer stretches and why he's ended up in this place. But very good game for him tonight. Certainly the best that he's had since he came to Philadelphia. And, who knows? Maybe this is you just need to get one of these under your belt. You come back from, you're playing in a different league, in a different country, you're reacclimating, getting adjusted back to NBA minutes where he's playing more and in a more focal point role in Lithuania. So now you come here off the bench and you're trying to assert yourself in a different way. So who knows? Maybe this is the kickstart he needs to go on a little run here.
And it really is like we were talking pregame about like, look, you need to evaluate some guys. I understand Nick's not going to fully embrace the tank, but like priorities need to shift at least a little bit. Give me some Jared Butler. Decidedly not good tonight, but at least we got to see him play a little bit. Give me some Lonnie Walker. Good night. Let's see if he can carry it over. I don't want to see him come out here and play 10 minutes when Tyrese comes back. I'd like to see him in a little larger of a role. Not necessarily because it's going to help you win games. Not necessarily because the express goal is to lose games, but because you do want to evaluate some of these. I don't call Lonnie a young person. He's not a young player all that much anymore, but someone who you do have a team option for next year. Someone that you have to make a decision on. I would like to see more of it. He's
certainly young compared to the guards they were bringing in off the bench earlier this season. So
yes,
because they're older than me.
Yeah.
And Lonnie Walker, again, February 21st is when the signing was official for the 76ers. So it's only been 2.5 weeks since he's been back, and he hasn't looked good. But you're starting to see some of those good signs as to why you believe that he belongs in the NBA, especially still being a youngish enough player at the age of 26. Lonnie Walker heating
CJ.
up with our Ace Hardware temperature check. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project.
I might need Ace Hardware depending on what happens to my roof with all this wind.
It is a lot. You're not going anywhere, Derek. You're all right, man. You'll be cool. You'll be cool. That window.
Be cool, Yolanda. Be cool. I'm glad you got it. I'm glad I was rewarded for that.
Classic. Yeah, absolutely. All
right.
Like
the Fonz.
Also, another player.
You broke Devon.
Another player that Another player that was pretty good tonight in this one, as we try to find some of the silver linings. And speaking of another younger player, Justin Edwards came out right away. Well, he was 5 for 7 in his 31 minutes, 2 for 3 overall. He finished with 14 points, and you still see the defensive chops. You still see some of the things when he gets into the painted area. He had a mid-range jumper that even Reggie Miller was like, I like it, just because he didn't mess around with navigating too far into the traffic, messing around of dribbling back out to the three-point line. It was an open shot. He took it. He dropped it. Now, Reggie is a player that in his era, of course, he was known for his three-point shooting, but a mid-range game was still a thing. But he showed again tonight, Justin Edwards, is why one of the players that we look at, if things get right and if things play out in his favor as well, well, you can see, you don't even really have to squint anymore, that he can play, and he can play some.
No squinting on this one.
No squinting on this one for him, that he can play in this league.
Yeah, and he's one I'd like to see get featured minutes, in part because I still feel like at times he is a little bit in his shell, where like he can do more offensively. He has places to attack. I'd like to see him be more aggressive and give him the ball more, give him more playing time, encourage him to be, a little more aggressive than maybe he's comfortable being. Because, he ended up playing 31 minutes tonight. What do you get? 7 shots?
7 shots.
Made his threes. Yeah. Had a couple of nice drives.
A crispy minus 28.
Well, look.
I'm not blaming him for that.
We're not at the point where we're evaluating.
Be cool, Yolanda.
Be clear. I am
cool.
not blaming Justin Edwards for that. That is far beyond his control.
He showed that he has that shot. He can use the threat of that shot to get into the paint.
Yeah.
On the one hand, I want to give him credit because he doesn't take bad shots. He doesn't make negative plays. It's a really good trait to have. You don't want to go too far in the other direction, but just pull him inch by inch into like, you are an NBA player. You're an NBA offensive player. You can get your shot. Try a little more. I'd like to see it.
He's shown every game when you look at these young players, you're just looking for stuff, right? And we know it's going to show in the box score that's really going to stand out. But when you're just looking at things that he does, like I've seen him a few times where he has some combination dribbles where it was just instincts taking over. When he's gotten past the initial defender, he's gotten there in the mix, and he just unleashed a bang, bang, and he gets by a defender, quick low dribble, scoop it up, and go into the basket, right into the arms of the defender, or just simply laying the ball in. You just like that type of stuff. And even on that first 3 that he made on the quick catch, didn't even think about it, just let it go, and he nailed it. No rim, all net. That's the type of stuff that you see where he's played in more than enough games now at this stage of the season where it's just happening for him, and it's happening, and you like what you see. You like what you see. So when he gets another offseason, when he gets another summer league, he didn't look good in the summer league. He had spots.
No.
But when he gets to the summer league.
We thought he was like, that guy's going to be in the G League the whole year.
Yeah, it's like, what are they doing here?
Yeah.
Right. And when he gets to the summer league this time, we're going to have a different approach to what we think he should be doing where, hey, how many games is he going to play in the summer league?
Yeah.
Because he might be too good by game 5 where that's enough. We've seen enough. And while Ricky, we saw and said the same thing, he wound up playing a few more extra games there between Salt Lake and then Las Vegas. But Justin Edwards is getting to that point where you just see stuff and you're saying, okay, I like it. The instinctual part of the game, it's not sped up anymore too much when he's out there. He's comfortable.
Now you're still talking about Justin, right?
Justin
I was
Edwards.
a little distracted because I think I saw 2 cows fly by the window. It might have been the same cow twice, but I'm
Devon,
not
Derek,
sure.
and I, and super producer Bree are starring in the next Twisters reboot.
3. What do we call this one?
Twisters 3. This time it's personal. The thing that I have really enjoyed about Justin Edwards, when you compare him to some of these other guys that, let's be fair, we're probably talking ourselves into more than like, oh, this guy's a real role player. It's like you can already see the role he can play as a role player for the next 5 years, whatever it is. Whereas some of these guys, it's like, oh, I see a flash, but they're flashing in a way that when the team is healthy and they have everybody available, it's not all that relevant, right? Like we enjoyed watching Ricky last year in some of those shorthanded games, but Ricky getting all these opportunities to slash and drive and play with the ball in his hands, that's not coming to you when Paul George and Maxey, and if Joel Embiid's ever healthy, when Joel Embiid is out there, right? Justin Edwards is someone, no matter who the stars are or what they look like or how the offense is run, he brings a definable skill and a mentality that works with those guys, right? Like, I agree with Derek, especially in these circumstances. I would like to see Justin hunt his own shot and be more aggressive and say, hey, instead of 7 shots, get to 12, 15 shots. Like, maybe your efficiency isn't there, but like, I just want to see you try to take somebody off the dribble a couple more times. But what I do like is, like, if you take the tape from tonight and just put it in a different version of this team, Justin Edwards taking quick spot up shots or 2 dribble pull-ups, right? Where it's like, I see a defender coming out at me, hit the closeout, 1-2, pull up, runner, whatever it is, and playing decisively, right? How many times have we said in years past when they were more competitive, oh, that guy had a record scratch possession. Oh, this guy he doesn't play with enough pace and enough purpose in the half court. And so you turn advantages that the offense has created into a standstill and having to recycle it. Justin doesn't do that. And there are not a lot of guys who are rookies who come into the league, especially rookies who come in after a bad freshman season, like really disappointing freshman season, and show that level of poise and understanding of, this is my job, this is what I'm here to do. So like, it speaks to his skill level, certainly, but it also probably speaks to his ability and willingness to take instruction, right? Because this is not a kid who in high school is having to be like, oh, I'm the role player next to other guys. Not even at Kentucky, right? Like, he's playing with a bunch of top recruits, but he was one of the top guys, right? So he's going in there expecting, I'm going to get the ball, I'm going to take shots. And so to this quickly pivot into being a high efficiency, a relatively high efficiency, low volume role player is really impressive for where his mentality is at. And it makes me really excited to see him on a team that is trying to compete for stuff and has more people who can do the heavy lifting around him.
Yeah. No, and part of the reason that I would like to encourage him to be a little more assertive is because, look, when sometimes you send people down to the G League, Ricky, I'm thinking about, Paul Reed, I'm thinking about, they come back up and they're like, oh, I can be a featured guy.
Yes.
I can do stuff outside of my comfort zone. I have full confidence that Justin Edwards is not that person. If he comes out here and he's shooting 12, 13, 14, 15 times per game, between now and the end of the season, I have confidence in him and his mindset and his, the way he plays the game and his intelligence on the court, that he can come out next year and be like, okay, I might only play 20 minutes. I might only get 5 shots, and I'm okay with that. I'm still going to take good shots. I can scale my offense back down and make good decisions. I have confidence in him to do that. It's more like I want to empower him and get him confidence more than I want to build bad habits. And I have full confidence in Justin that he can toe that line.
Yeah, and when he's out there, let's say next season he gets a stretch of 10 minutes because there was a situational spot where the coach calls his number, and he's out there while Embiid, George, Maxey on the floor with, let's say, I don't know, Quentin Grimes is out there on the floor as well. Shot clock is at 5. I feel comfortable that he can catch it and let that thing go from behind the three-point line. Same form. It doesn't look any different. He's not thinking about it. Where as much as we like Ricky, we know that if he catches it at 5, he might question that shot a little bit, hesitate a bit, and then drive to the basket. Now you're looking at it 2 seconds on that shot clock where he has to go do a Ricky thing to try to finish, where Justin Edwards is either going to go or he's going to make a quick decision there as a guy who's a scorer to get by his initial defender and do something somewhere in that intermediate to get there and finish. So that's what you like about Justin Edwards right now. And while there were only 5, he was only 5 for 7. He had that 14. You're seeing good things out of him that makes you feel like he's at least one guy that's a bit of a keeper.
5 for 7 would be like, if you're talking about, hey, that's a role player on a team with more talent. You're like pumping your fists and jumping in the air. Like, that's incredible for a role player, right? Someone who's just ready to shoot, ready to go in that specialized role. And so you don't want to go overboard. He is and like, he had a bunch of defensive mistakes tonight. He's part of the problem, but like, he's a young player who has shown some chops on that end of the floor. And so you assume with a little bit of better structure that'll come. We also had somebody who much earlier in the chat asked what was Justin's actual height, thought that he was more like a 6'5.5". And they said, I believe his combine measurement was 6'6" without shoes. So with shoes, that's probably like 6'7", 6'7.5", depending on the brand of shoes. Yeah, there we go. DC Marley is one that he kind of looks like he's 6'5.5". He is 6'6" without shoes. So whatever you determine that is. And
He's got
Derek
pretty-
and I actually had a
Wingspan's
long
pretty good.
argument about. I think he's got a 6'10" wingspan.
Yeah, 6'6" without shoes, 6'10" wingspan, exactly 8 foot 6.5 inch standing reach.
Yeah, so he's plenty big for an NBA wing. I think that's maybe not at the high end, certainly, but in the
It's
2-3 hybrid, I would say.
Yeah, it's for a 3, he is average.
Yeah.
A little bit undersized to be a 3-4 hybrid. Probably a little bit not quick enough to be a 2-3 hybrid, although he shows flashes at times. But yeah, he's pretty prototypical size for a 3.
Yep.
He's a fill out a little bit, but in terms of height and length.
I mean, look, he's 19, so once he starts to put some more muscle on that body and add that part to who he is, then it's looking pretty good. We think it's going to look pretty good with him.
Yeah,
in
and
a
again,
spot role.
to Kyle's point, like I'm not saying he's a future starter. Could be, like people develop, but like I'm pretty confident he can be like in a rotation. That might be a 7th, 8th, 9th man, but I think he can certainly, like that is not an unrealistic expectation. And for an undrafted player, that's a huge find.
And we've seen him in a lot of roles up to this point. I mean, now he's asked to be a starter in a role where he's playing way above what we expected. And as you talked about, he's having some missed defensive assignments and all. Right now, he's probably in that lineup with Grimes and Oubre. He's probably supposed to be a 3rd best scorer. I mean, and you're out there with Yabusele and Drummond. They're heavily reliant on you to do things for them, even Yabusele at times, where you're asking him to be the 3rd scorer against the Boston Celtics tonight. So different roles we've seen him play already this season, but he seems like he's passing each test with every different one, playing with the stars, playing with the non-stars, and playing in his role coming off the bench where he's asked to be a 6th, 7th, 8th man.
Yep.
And this is where we are, though, for the remainder of the season. He's going to get a lot of run, but he's a pretty good player, and we hope it plays out for him because he's worked really hard to get to this spot. And for us overachieving, I'm sure for him, he says it. I know he's talked about it where he's like, yeah, I didn't expect it to be this soon. To be doing what he's doing in the league, but it's worked out for Justin Edwards.
A quick tanking update from a visitor in the chat. We have someone named Adam Butt. I'm serious for anyone who's listening to audio only, who says, I'm cheering for the Sixers because my team doesn't know how to tank. All love from Canada. Keep up the great work,
I mean,
guys.
look, they sure as heck tried on Tuesday night.
Thank you, Adam Butt.
It didn't work, but you tried.
For your support from the Great North.
Remo K says, let's go Raptors.
Yeah, baby.
Let's go Raptors.
Sixers are taking that 5th lottery spot, Adam Butt.
We'll get an update.
Show you.
We'll get an update a little bit, not only with the wins and losses, but just where the Sixers are in terms of the standings. We'll get that tankathon update a little bit later here on the PHLY.
You guys got to do a spin before the show ends?
They'll do a spin.
Yeah.
They'll do a spin.
Remember, I'm not involved, so I can't look. It's all...
All
Hey,
right.
even Tankathon is tweeting about the Sixers now, so that's where we are. We're back at that. All right, we'll get back. We'll come back. We'll talk about a lot more on this show as the Sixers fall once again 123-105. Our post-game show, as always, presented by Bet365. And I keep it going with Bet365 because tonight, again, I let folks down. Jess, I know she tailed it. Sorry, Jess. Kyle was even on my side on this one. But
She was in the Discord
work
the
I
out.
other
mushed
day.
him, Jess. I mushed him.
Quentin Grimes had an off night. He did. He did have an off night. And Payton Pritchard made, count them, 4 threes, even though he was still very good in this one. But we were able to place those wagers at Bet365 and very easily because it's very easy to navigate on the app. With over 90 million users worldwide, it's a very fun app to navigate through. Place your bets at 780,000 events a year. Early payout offers all over the place across the NBA and the NHL. They've pioneered live in-game betting, so even if you didn't see how things were playing out the way that you wanted with the initial wager, you can adjust that with the live in-game betting at Bet365. And they offer the widest range of games and markets available for the live in-game betting across 78 sports. And here's what you get as a new customer. If you're interested for the final stretch of the basketball season, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Win or lose, sign up, use code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get that $150 in bonus bets. Again, win or lose. You're like, wait, win or lose? Yes, win or lose. And with that, you can get some early payouts. You can then go turn it around and go make another wager because Bet365 is there for you and right there in your hand on your phone. So make sure you go sign up once again using code PHLY365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Baseball season is getting underway. So if you got those futures things that you want to put in there, Bet365 has you. Must be 21 plus, physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
We also want to tell you about one of our new friends here at PHLY, and that is Timeline Nutrition. The cells in our bodies are the building blocks of life. Timeline is a supplement that works with those cells to help give you more energy, feel stronger during workouts, and preserve health and mobility as you start to age. The patented ingredient in Timeline is Midopure, a postbiotic nutrient that clears our dysfunctional mitochondria, aka your cell's battery packs. With regular use, you'll see and feel the difference in the form of improved energy levels, better workouts, faster recovery, more endurance, and more. Midopure recharges your cells and helps your body's systems to work better. And Midopure is the only supplement clinically proven to rejuvenate health at the cellular level. And Midopure is shown to deliver double-digit increases in muscle strength and endurance without a change in exercise. So get ready to be the best, most energized, most revitalized version of you. Right now, Timeline is giving you 10% off your order of Midopure. Go to timeline.com/PHLY today to get started. That's timeline.com/PHLY.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers Postgame Show presented by Bet365. Let's get to the player of the game and let you know who that is. And that is tonight, one Kelly Oubre with the 27, leading the team in scoring, 3 for 5 from beyond, 5 boards, 6 assists. Did get 5 personal fouls at one point where Nick Nurse sat him down, but the game was, again, in hand. He had 16 in the third quarter. So when they did cut the lead to 10, it was largely due to the output that he had in that frame, dropping that 16 in the third quarter. So for this one tonight, Kelly Oubre, you are our player of the game, and our player of the game is brought to you by
Kobe White.
Exactly.
The real player of the game.
Real player of the game. Super chat that we do have here tonight. Kyle, we got a haiku from Skunk Riley to start things off.
Skunk Riley says, haiku titled Love Hurts.
Ooh.
I love PHL.
Appreciate
Left out a letter. He's referring to us. They are the hosts with the most. Keep it whole 100.
Ah, look at that. The host with the most. What
Thank
is that
you,
from?
Skunk.
The host with the most.
I don't know what the origin of that is.
Yeah, but you hear it. It does stand out because you do hear that in the Hun.
I believe it might originate from a song.
Host with the most.
I think hostess with the mostest is also a thing.
Well, that's on John Oliver.
Okay.
I've seen that. But I don't know where it originated.
All right, but Skunk, thanks for the super
I'm gonna have
chat.
to do some real research on that one before I'm
Thanks
comfortable saying where the origin is.
Thanks for the super chat, Skunk. Really
Especially
appreciate
now that
it.
everything gives you the AI answer first and it's wrong most of the time or complete misinformation.
Turns out you can't believe everything you Google on the internet.
That's right.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. J Flow, super chat. Will Morey or Nurse be fired or both?
We did do a show on that not too long ago. I will say, I think the way that they have turned down their energy and their compete level makes me think nothing will happen in season. At the end of the season, I mean, look, this is one of the most disappointing seasons in modern NBA history. If you just go based on the projected win total at the beginning and where they're going to end up, we'll see. There tend to be consequences.
I hate to say it. I do think the reaction to season ticket renewals might play a role here. I'm not saying that's like the most important thing, but I think if you take into consideration how bad the season has been, the rumors of the discord between Harris and Morey on the Joel extension, which there's a whole lot to unpack with that, and 100 other factors. And then you get to that stuff is all front and center, right? But you get to like today or this week, which is when, as we've been told by our people who are season ticket holders, who are diehards and whatnot, they've said, hey, I got this email. Finally, the season ticket renewals. And they're trying to sell people on essentially
Guys,
like,
we know it sucked, but
we just got to get healthy. We're trying to compete. And hey, also those 2001 era black jerseys,
Maybe
we're going to bring them back next year, but
Right.
we won't tell you for sure because we have to do a Nike marketing campaign. And so they're doing all this, and it all is spelling out in neon letters. Like, we don't really have an answer right now. And I think from what I have heard from people, now granted, what you hear from people is always more than likely the people who are mad and dissatisfied over the people who are content and just not engaging. But I would guess there's going to be a hit to the amount of people that are going to every game, the amount of people who are signing up for season tickets, the amount of people who are excited to follow this team, so on and so forth. And so, like, is that going to be the ultimate thing that decides whether Daryl and Nick are brought back? No. Is that something that they will take note of as like, hey, we might need to react, or we might feel we need to react because we can see our standing in this town and interest among the fans dwindling? I think so. I don't think that's a crazy thing to suggest.
yeah. The other flip side of that is that I have to go back and double check the contracts because a lot of times these aren't public. I think those two have about a combined 3 years each and about $70+ million left on their
A
deals.
lot of money.
That factors into it.
Yeah.
So is this to keep it going with Jay's question? Is this a situation where, remember where Nick Sirianni had to sit down and it took like 9-10 days before Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman had to make a decision? Is this a situation where they do have to sit down together and figure out if this is the right combination together to move forward because of what has happened? And it was a disappointment. While this one stands out because of how bad it has been, last year was a disappointment too, in the mere fact that they got knocked out in the first round. For whatever reason it was, they did not advance past the second round, and they did have Embiid and Maxey, of course, the injuries that they dealt with, but they got knocked out in the first round. The conversation is going to most likely be had.
I would say I don't think there is as much need to do like an extended period after the season ends with that, because you know where you are right now. Like the thing with that Eagles team, we could see the writing on the wall. They lost in the first round. It was this horrific disgrace, but like there was at least a positive start to the season, right? You can say it was held together with rubber bands and glue and it was all fake and a flash in the pan, whatever you want to say about it. And then it was all destined to fail. They were winning too many games by close margins, but like they did have success, right? This is a season that has sucked from day one, right? And a lot of your biggest decisions that you made last offseason were clearly bad and were known to be bad within like the first 2 months of the year and have never really improved, right? So this isn't unlike in that Eagle situation where you need to actually dig in and like, okay, what happened here? This has been happening. And so if you're still at the point where if you get to April 13th or 15th, whatever it is, the last day of the season, and you're like, I sure don't know what happened here. And I don't know what went wrong and what was to blame. Like that would be a big problem in and of itself. So I would think, I'm not saying that this is how it'll go.
No. Just
I would think that you should be able to make an informed decision about what you want to do with the franchise going into the future at president of basketball operations and head coach by the time the season is over. And there shouldn't need to be like a huge deliberation period. In fact, I think it would be best for everybody, including the organization, that you do have that certainty, because if you're going to make replacements, that needs to happen pretty immediately, especially if you hold on to that pick.
and I bring it up in that way too, because who was it? Doc Rivers wasn't Doc Rivers sitting at the table with at the end of the season, and then things just all of a sudden Doc Rivers is gone, and at the end of the season conversation where you're taking the questions from the media, and you is he going to be sitting at the table with Daryl Morey at the end of the year where they're taking questions? Now, if Daryl Morey is sitting there, the question is going to be asked about Nick Nurse, because these last two seasons have been under his watch. And because of that, he's going to get that question. And to your point of the season ticket holders getting these emails now, there are 20 games left, 9 of which will be at home. What is that going to look like in front of the home fan base for these final 9 games? What is the product?
We've already started to see it
floor?
when it's not a premier visitor.
What's it going to look like?
It is. There are not a lot of
capacity.
people there, right?
Yeah.
Like the Warriors game, tons of Warriors fans. But when you're just asking Sixers fans to show up, much different story.
But even Indiana, it's not a draw, but it's Indiana and the Sixers on a regular night. That's a good game. Indiana now, not so much.
Yeah.
OKC, yeah, they want to come see them because they're the best team in the league. But yeah, the Toronto Raptors in town, unless you're rooting to go find and watch it in person to see if Toronto actually beats the Sixers to help out your chances.
That's a big game.
Exactly.
That's a big game.
That, other than that,
must lose.
It's not that much of a draw. So 9 games, man. I'm very curious to see how the fans turn out when those things happen, where the runs are happening for the opposition. The boos start to come down. They hear it and they see those empty seats in that building.
Yeah,
they do.
No, I mean it's yeah. To Kyle's point, like you should have this decision made by the time, the day after press conferences come. You should be able to say like, no, Nick will be our coach next season. You shouldn't, we're going to have to talk about it. Like it needs to happen right away.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks for the question, Jay. Appreciate it. Go check out our podcast, our other show where we talked about Nick Nurse a little more extensively there. Scott Sotan, say we get a top 6 pick and get a younger team. Can this team coach develop young players? We just talked about Nick Nurse there. What do you think?
I mean, look, Tyrese Maxey, I know that drafted before Nurse, but like Tyrese Maxey has developed. Jared McCain showed promise. Justin Edwards, Adembona. I think a lot of times development, not that it's only this, but like the first major step in player development is drafting kids with the right mindsets and the right work ethics. So yes, I think certainly Daryl and this front office have done a good job identifying them. I think Nick did a pretty good job. I mean, McCain, yeah, he got a huge bump in minutes early on with some injuries, but he was going to be in that rotation anyway. If there's one thing I give this team credit for, it is the draft. And for the most part, I don't think, and this was one of the concerns we had about Nick. We had 2 concerns really about Nick. First, offensive creativity. That one's borne out to be a little bit true. And the second one was that he really hesitated to play young players. I think he's done a pretty good job of that here.
Yeah. Now, whether he would have done that if they had a normal season with injuries and whatnot.
I do think Jared would still be playing.
Yeah, Jared for sure. And
well, if he was healthy.
Yeah. I think he has shown that if you flash enough, he'll give you some rope and he'll allow you to go out there. Like, I mean, even Justin, right? He gave Justin a chance, but it wasn't like, hey, Justin is for sure going to be in our rotation. But he gave him a couple of opportunities. Justin rewarded his confidence, and he got a real role. He was able to start games. He's able to play real rotation minutes. And so he has shown he'll give guys opportunities. So, yes, I think if you get a top pick like that, I absolutely think he'll give that type of player, if he's still here, the runway and the opportunity that player would deserve. Will he be the absolute best person for turning that guy from a high-level prospect into a star? I can't say that. Maybe you're skeptical, and I think that's fair based on how the last year has turned out, but that's a different question.
Now, as part of your answer there, you said if he's still here, and you were clearly referring to Nurse there, but that does tie into our next super chat.
Perfect.
Go for it.
It's you got it.
Riaz. Guys, hypothetically, if the Sixers picks 4, 5, or 6, do you see Morey, if he's here, trading that pick for an established player to maximize the big 3, or would he take a rookie regardless?
Not what Kyle meant, but this is a very different question, and I hope he does not trade the pick. I really
100%
It would be one thing, like I think there is a pretty defined top 6 or so in this draft of people that I have interest in. If it was somewhere outside of that, like if the pick protections misspoke.
I'm just going to leave it there.
If the pick
Sixers
protections
after dark.
were different, and if it was only a top 10 protected pick, then I would say, like, you know what? I might even entertain possibly trading that. Because I do think there's a drop off after 5 or 6.
You're right.
But with where they're at, keeping this pick, I would be very disappointed if they trade. I'm not saying it's impossible, because Daryl is hyper focused on trying to build around this big 3. you don't really know whether or not that. The calculus should have changed with the way that this is borne out. More specifically, should have changed with the uncertainty around Joel. It better have changed with the uncertainty around Joel Embiid. But we know that Daryl Morey has been really focused on trying to build a championship caliber supporting cast around Embiid while he still could. He better not trade a top 6 pick. But I'm not going to tell you that there's no chance.
Well, especially a top 6 pick in a draft where people feel very good about the guys at the top of this draft.
I will say, like 1 or 2, if he tries to trade that pick, you got to fire him. Just get out of here.
You are not allowed to trade 1 or 2. After that, there's like the tiniest bit, but it would have to be you get bowled over with an offer. And even then, I'm not a believer in turning one blue chip guy into other stuff in the aggregate, right? Like I would rather have, if you truly believe these are blue chip players at the top of this draft, give me the blue chip guy, believe in your scouting, believe in your ability to, reshape the roster around said player and the other younger guys that are core pieces of this team. If the answer is yes, they would trade it and it wouldn't be like a complete fleecing of the other team, I will not sign off on that. I will be complaining and bitching to high heaven about that.
And in part because that's just a content gold mine, and I need that this summer.
Well, and like, look, it changes the whole story of this team, right?
Dose of optimism that you desperately need with this.
And also a dose of like, we don't need to care so much about every single thing is just Joel. When we have no idea if or when this guy's going to be healthy again, right? You can at least, if you get an Ace Bailey, if you get a Trey Johnson, a Dylan Harper, especially a Cooper Flagg, you can start talking about, hey, what does the window look like a few years from now? What is their realistic, runway to develop these guys? Without another real guy, it just goes back to the same conversation. Is Joel healthy? How do you build around him? Can you trust him to, play X amount of games in the playoffs? And it's just it's a circular argument.
My gosh, if we end up having to run this back and have another exact season play out like this one, I might go back to IT.
Oh, don't say that. You at least get to hang out with Devon Bree.
I might go back to IT work.
For us.
Daryl, don't do that. Don't do that to Derek. We need him here.
No, I like basketball. Please keep me here.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Bree, let's get to the tank watch. Let's get to the tank watch for tonight. Finals already? Okay.
Wait, they only lost by 2?
Oh, they came back.
They were down by 10 with no time left.
Cam Thomas hit a huge 3, but then Steph got fouled.
What the hell happened? Man, I really missed the end of that.
There was one where you guys were like talking about someone, and I'm like, I hope he's still talking about Justin Edwards because I've been watching this Nets game.
That's why you were like, what?
I played it off well.
I was confused at why you were confused at that part.
Or it
was 10 points with a minute left.
No, they had a good comeback. I was like holding in some yips there. I was getting really excited.
Wow. Shout out to Kobe White.
Player of the game.
Chicago Bulls. The true player of the night, we'll say, on Tank Watch. Kobe White in 36 minutes, 16 of 28 from the field, 7 of 15 from 3, 5 for 6 from the free throw line, 44 points, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, and an assist. And and he won the game for the Chicago Bulls.
He scared us at the end with that turnover where he gave the ball.
Dove on the ball.
Back to
who was it? Paolo missed the shot to win it at the end.
Yep.
Yeah.
For Orlando.
Yeah.
Man, Orlando doing some real yeoman's work this week. Losses to the Raptors and the Bulls. I'm going to send a Christmas card to Jamal Mosley if they end up helping the Sixers get this pick.
Yeah, so there's that for the Tank Watch tonight. Tank Watch, as always, for the remainder of the season is brought to you by no one. Tankathon, are you going to do the spin?
Oh, sure.
First, I'll give you the update from yesterday when the Tankathon did their only sim of the day. The 76ers moved up 4 spots to number 3, and they selected Ace Bailey with that 3rd overall pick. Cooper Flagg 1 to Chicago, Dylan Harper 2 to Charlotte. Ace Bailey to the Sixers at number 3.
Now they are now within a game of Toronto for the 5th worst record. That would be huge. Didn't get any help from New Orleans, but man, if they could just find a way.
All right.
get one more spot up.
Make sure you sign up to become a diehard member on PHLY.com. We thank everybody for watching. If you were watching on Fast, you got us here, all PHLY.com. Sign up, get a free t-shirt, get all the written articles from Derek and Kyle, Kyle's recap from tonight's game as well. Philly's getting underway. Eagles signing Zach Bond and Saquon Barkley and free agency starting on Monday. So you want to be tuned in. Zach, Bo, Fran, Les Bowen, all the team.
Figure out whatever that cryptic Milton Williams tweet meant earlier.
Yeah, man. Us tweets, man. And you can also see what they're talking about whenever it comes to Darius Slay and CJ Gardner-Johnson. Can you just have a Super Bowl and be happy? Also, Charlie writing about the Flyers, all PHLY.com. All right, Derek, what you got on the only spin of the night?
There we go. Fourth pick.
We'll
take it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Who you taking?
Well, I was going to say, let's just assume the top three goes chalk.
Ace Bailey, 3. Dylan Harper, 2. Cooper
Flag,
1.
Who you taking it for? Gun to your head right now.
VJ.
I think I'm taking VJ too, even though it's not the cleanest fit
it's not.
amongst those guys, but
that guy's an athlete.
Well, and he's a point of attack.
Defend.
I will say,
too.
I have to watch Trey Johnson more.
I already told you that's my guy, man.
Yeah, I have to. I just don't
Fill
have
it up, Trey.
I don't have any real feel for him yet. Yakachonis, I've watched a good amount of. Edgecombe, I've watched a good amount of.
I will
Ace
say,
Harper Flag.
I've watched a decent bit of Trey. I think Trey is definitely in my top 6. I don't know, and he wouldn't be top 3, but he might be somewhere in that 4 to 6 range. Like I said in our show yesterday, I have a first tier Cooper, second tier Dylan. Trey Johnson is in that third tier.
But for a minute there, you talked about Ace being pretty much on the back end of your 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
So that moves Trey.
No,
Johnson
I think
up.
I mean, look, Trey is if that is a tier 3, there's sort of like a top of that tier 3 and a bottom. And I think Trey and Ace Bailey are in that.
All right, Trey. Let's see what you do in the conference tournaments, my man.
But for now, since I've actually watched him a lot, VJ, give me Edgecombe.
But I'm in on Trey Johnson.
I do think you just really need that kind of defender too. I think and he's a little more of an off-ball player. So like you're not going to get Maxey maybe off-ball. You're not going to get Maxey himself off-ball. But because VJ can do so much, he's a much better catch-and-shoot player than he is off-the-dribble shooter. He can attack gaps better than he can attack off of dribble. I think he could give a good dynamic to the team.
I tell you what, we haven't gotten to that show yet where we talk about those other tiers of
it's an
those
interesting
players.
Group.
But with his shooting and when you talk about the defense, yes, but the shooting, while you see flashes, you see some really good stuff. The one thing you don't have to change is his release, his mechanics. The form is perfect on that outside shot. So
you're talking about Trey?
No, I'm talking about VJ. Yeah.
He's real good off the catch. You'd love to see him develop off of the dribble a little more.
And that's Trey Johnson.
You know what else? Yeah. Well, you know what else I'd love to watch? Him dunking on people all the time.
His body control and explosion is incredible.
Nuclear athlete, absolute insane.
I will say,
hops.
I think the one thing I was talking to a scout the other day, and I agree with it. The one thing I'm not sure he has necessarily the quick explosion off of like drives with the ball in his hands. I'd love, and that might just be like he needs to refine his handle a little bit to really take advantage of it. But you see the explosion with him at the rim. You see the explosion in the open floor. And then the combination of that with the body control, real fun guy to watch.
Yeah. And when you talk about somebody, just final one for me. And
go right ahead.
When you talked about Justin Edwards and just somebody who wants to take that information in, he seems like that kind of guy where he takes the information in and just fits.
Yeah. I don't want to give away my whole thing on him. I think I made a comment to this effect in our Die Hard Discord a while back. One thing I love about Edgecombe, if you watch him as other guys make plays on his team, and they haven't been, especially good this year. They've been probably a little disappointing by their standards.
Mm-hmm.
When he sees his teammates make big plays, he is just as excited on those plays as he is when he dunks on somebody. It's like he's running down the court screaming and yelling and, fist bumping. And like, that's the type of energy I want on my basketball team. I want guys who aren't just invested in their own success, but are fired up to celebrate their teammates' success and everybody's success. So like, I have loved seeing that from him. I'm not saying that that's not the case for these other guys, but because I've watched him quite a bit, it's something that you see consistently that I really like. And as you talk about, Derek brought up earlier in the show about prospects, and some of it is like kids with the work ethic and all the other things that looking for things that show basketball character to me is very important.
Yeah. And Brian Knight says, hot take, guys. VJ will jump Harper and Ace Bailey because
I don't think he has got.
I agree on one of the two.
Because of
I agree
tournament
on one
play.
of the two.
Because of tournament play, getting that extended run where those guys will either NIT or not.
Yep.
Yeah, tournament play, and we'll see. But that's why listen, we're all gonna be watching the tournament together to figure this out. And it's gonna be as bad as this season has been, it gives us all something to again come together with as trying to figure out whatever prospect that might be.
And listen, if VJ shoots, that's like that's such a separator because he does a bunch of other stuff. If he has a big tournament in that respect.
Like I said a week ago, and I think you guys thought I was kidding, getting this draft pick is the most important thing I have going on in my life right now. I need this pick so badly. My mental is just wholly dependent on getting this draft pick.
So, folks, May 12th.
What's that quote, Devon?
Which one?
Protect your mentals and your chickens or whatever.
Chickens, yes.
I always forget it.
Shout out Marshawn Lynch.
I can't remember.
Shout out your mentals and your chickens. Yeah.
You used to bring that up all the time on the show last year.
That was on the show like twice a week, and now the quote has just leaked out of my brain and my ears. All right, I think it's time for a roll call.
So May 12th, Monday, it will be the NBA draft lottery, and we will, of course.
Big day.
Big day.
One week after the Kendrick show, too.
Can't wait to go to
just
that. A good 7-day
Won't be
window.
interrupted by the Sixers in the playoffs either. Perfect.
Good
Hey, you don't
7-day
know.
window.
You're only 3.5 games back of the 10 seed.
If
20
it does,
in a row.
I'm going to the concert. You can
20
cover
in a
the
row.
game, buddy.
Let's get to it. All right, the world famous roll call. Late night.
Thank you, everybody, for being here and hanging out with us, including we got friends from Canada. We got Puppas overseas. Adam Butt hanging out in the chat. I still can't believe that's your name in YouTube, but much respect to you, our new friend. Also, hello and thank you to all of our wonderful regulars in here, like Vic, like Brian
What
Knight.
up, Vic?
We got X-Man,
X.
Bootzilla,
Boots.
We have blue flags in the building. I don't know. That might be a new one for me, but thank you, my friend, for coming in.
Flags?
We got Remo K. We got DC Marley. We got Riaz. We got Mellow 3-Point.
What up?
Scott Sotan. Is that Sino Bite Mare?
Scotty? Sino Bite Mare?
I think. If that's a different thing that I'm pronouncing incorrectly, you can make fun of me and my hoagie mouth rather than taking any offense to how I'm pronouncing it. Thank you for coming through. And either way, Yams Colangelo. Yams is always changing his or her name, their name.
What up, Yams?
It's always Yams to me.
Yes,
Thank you, Yams, for coming through. JS is hanging out with us. What up to JS?
JS.
What up to Jess?
What up, Jess?
With the purple heart. What's up to my girl, Winona?
Hey, Nona.
Always here.
She got Kelly Oubre as a player of the game. She wanted to know.
What up to Rich P? What up to, I think Jeannie was probably in here early on. I know I saw Jeannie earlier.
Definitely in pregame.
For sure. Jay the Jungle, I don't think was here, but I always forget him. So shout out to Jay the Jungle.
Is he on like Al level, the tier of mandatory?
Yeah, and I know Al was here. So what up to my guy Al? Our guy Al, the 2-minute warning, hanging out in here as always. Who are our super chatters in here tonight? Riaz, Scott Sotan, Jay Flo, and the king of the haiku, Skunk Riley.
I really thought we'd save Skunk some money by informing him on the Discord because you pay once and you can drop all of the haikus you want, but he's still paying to drop haikus.
Hey,
that's why we
Skunk is a giver. We love that. Skunk. You better love somebody.
Love somebody. Love somebody.
Hanging out. T. Harris, who said Derek, Devon, and Kyle are my guys. Thank you, T. Harris. That's as far up as I can scroll, everybody. I can't see any more names beyond that. Oh, how could I forget? Mom's grandchildren. What up, Mom?
Hello, Mom.
Thanks for stopping by.
Talked to
she
her
always
earlier.
says, great show, and she always says, go Sixers. I can count on Mom for those two things.
She's not like us where we're like, yeah, they stink.
She's I mean, unfortunately,
somebody's got to be optimistic and positive.
Our job is to talk about what we see.
Normally, Devon's the optimistic one, so somebody's got to step into the role.
I get it from.
Yeah, I get it.
She's got her Maximus T-shirt.
Thank you, everybody, for stopping through. If you can, on the way out and haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live, and hit the thumbs up button to help us in the algorithm, but also to say thank you to our wonderful super producer, Bree, who's here each and every day, each and every night, running the show behind the scenes. We will be back on Sunday.
Is it a 7:30 game, I think?
I don't remember, but what I do remember, we are off on Friday and Saturday. I'm about to throw the second parade that's happened in Philadelphia this calendar year. Everybody take care of yourselves. Have a good weekend. We'll be back Sunday.
7 o'clock pregame right here, presented by Bet365. Make sure you download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. See you at 7 with Rich and Bree. Pregame, talk to these guys from the arena. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.